Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's look at some of these stocks on the move today in Europe. And I'm joined by Bloomberg's Markets Today editor, Sam Unstead. Good morning, Sam. BP coming clean with shareholders. What have they been saying?
So, good morning, Caroline.
Good morning.
So BP, a few months ago, major restructuring of the way they do things, or in some respects, sort of going back to the past, sort of getting rid of a lot of the green energy business they've been investing in, going back to fossil fuels. So what investors are looking for now is signs of any kind of progress, but it's very early in that, and turning a ship like BP around is quite difficult. The earnings this morning, really not very good, not very positive. No. Profit below expectations, debt rose, the buyback has been slowed right to the low end of BP's guidance. But I think that the really key thing to look for here is the cash flow. So BP's cash flow was at the lowest level since the fourth quarter of 2020. And that's at that point, oil prices were still around $40 a barrel. They're now, just about $60 a barrel. So that, plus the fact that last year, their operational performance in the first quarter was hit by a refinery outage, cash flow going down to that level is not great, because that indeed points to potential that buybacks are going to get hit even further in the future, and that is a major part of the oil major investment case. Okay,
so there's still a hill to climb then for Murray Auchincloss, the CEO of BP, although he did talk about saying, I'm confident that our plans to strengthen the balance sheet, etc., will grow long-term shareholder value and strengthen the resilience of BP. So trying to put a brave face on it then. In terms of investors seeming rather to be a little bit tired of Porsche.
Yeah, I think that's the way to put it. I mean, so Porsche is getting hit hard on two sides, like most automakers are at the moment. You've got the tariff story, and then for them, they've invested very heavily in EVs. There's a slowdown there. There's higher costs there. So that twin hit has been hitting them quite hard over the course of last year. But you would have thought their price tag is so high that anybody who's buying one wouldn't be that bothered if it goes up a little bit more. That's a really interesting question there, is that, with the tariffs coming through and with those extra costs on EVs, prices will probably have to rise. But there's then becomes a delicate balance because, they're not the only luxury car maker in town. And so there are others who will maybe do that or play that game a little bit better. It does appear at the moment like Porsche is struggling to get that balance just right and seeing slowdown, particularly in China, as most automakers are at the moment. But the EV tariff story hitting them from both sides.
So that's on Porsche. Rheinmetall, we've seen such strength and gains for the usually deeply unloved defence sector, but Rheinmetall continuing an extraordinary surge.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's quite easy to forget, right, that, since the beginning of April, tariffs have dominated absolutely everything. But you only have to go back a few weeks for a huge generational shift in the way that German spending works, German fiscal rules change, and the way that defence spending is going to flow through in Europe. And if you go back to that, I think what you see with Rheinmetall's report this morning, so revenue up by 73%, their order book is at about 63 billion euros. Almost everything is just going through the roof for them. You're seeing that generational shift that happened earlier in the year come through in Rheinmetall's results, and indeed their shares rising another sort of 7% this year. And if you go back sort of 2 or 3 years, their shares have absolutely surged and sort of outperformed most defence stocks across all of Europe.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.